Hello, my friends, and happy Thursday to you. This is Winnie Sun, your host of Level Up, and this is our live edition. As a reminder, we do go live on multiple social media channels every day. The financial markets are open here, and this is no exception. Let's start with the market update. Let you know what's going on in the news that you can use. Now, the Dow closed down 18 points. NASDAQ joined, also down 54 points, as America and investors continue to be concerned about whether or not the next round of stimulus support will be coming. As you know, we've been talking about this for so many days. I wish I had good news for you, but I do think we're closer rather than, farther away from a package. And I mean, I feel like at this point, we're going to get something by the election. Can we just say that? Let's just say that for all purposes, that's what's going to happen, because as we continue to see more drama in the White House, on our political front, as there continues to be disparity. We've got, like, right now, the GOP Republican offer is at $1.8 trillion for the stimulus package. Democrats at $2.2 trillion. And sort of the big sticking point or discussion point, or the heated discussion point, I should say, is the amount that should be earmarked for COVID-19 pandemic testing. Then the amount of funding that's necessary for that. That's really the sticky point and the problematic point right now between Republicans and Democrats. So hopefully they can come together, be friendly. I feel like parents need to intervene at this point and make them kind of get along so that we can get on with our lives. As we continue to see on other matters, what's doing well today? Zoom did very well today. Zoom continued to do well. Unfortunately, United Airlines, no surprise there, dropped more than expected. And on that note, Walgreens actually went up a little bit today, over 4%. So that was a positive. Now, on other matters that I really want to share with you, and this is kind of a big thing. Well, Amazon Prime, as you know, Amazon Prime Day just finished off. And, we talk about the importance of not doing too much impulse shopping. But unfortunately, my friends, $3.5 billion was spent, as Amazon reported, from their third-party reseller. So just imagine how much money was actually spent on those 2 days. And we haven't even counted what's going to be happening when Apple starts to ship out their Apple iPhone 12 and how much money is going to be spent there. So I'm not really sure. Like, it's kind of craziness as we continue to watch what's happening in Europe with the pandemic, with the coronavirus. We here in the United States are wondering if that's going to be our future, because as you know, Europe in many ways is about 2 to 3 to 4 weeks ahead of us in the pandemic, and they're starting to have considerable rises in cases, just like we are here, and are having to shut down. But you know what? I feel like we should actually talk about something a little bit more positive, because what can we do? What do we know? And what are some ways that we can benefit ourselves during this pandemic? And one area that I'm so excited to talk about today, because I have two the best of the best. We got some powerhouse leaders here to speak to us and talk to us about storytelling and brand marketing here during the pandemic and beyond, and how you can really make a name for yourself. In fact, Nielsen study shows that there are actually over 500,000 brands across the globe, and of that, in over 2,000 different categories. So that number is kind of huge. And you might be saying, well, how do I, as a small business owner, maybe a mid-sized business owner, maybe an executive at a major Fortune 500 corporation, how do I incorporate storytelling more into my life of showcasing my brand and what it is that I work on? And how do I really pay attention to the trends in marketing? And what are the key focuses? What are things that I should be paying attention to? What about relationship marketing, which is so critical? Well, let's introduce our power panel today. Let me tell you, the best of the best. This is such a treat to have them. So let's bring in Miri Rodriguez. All right, I love it. So, Miri, okay. So
Hi.
Miri, best-selling author, head of global internships at Microsoft. How are you, Miri?
I'm doing so good. You look amazing. I love that this is like a powerhouse of women here. I love that what you do. I'm such a fan. Thank you for having me.
I am such a fan of you. I joke that we go way back, but we really don't go back that long. I mean, we're both part of the Adobe Insiders group is how we became friends. But let me tell you, this book that you have, Best-selling author, okay, of brand storytelling. I'm excited because, this is usually, Miri, when you read a book like this, brand marketing or whatnot, it can be a little dry. Let me just say, this book is this is a page turner. This is like Miri in a book, like
Yeah.
spirited, great energy, a lot of positivity. So thank you for doing that. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored that you're reading the book and that you're enjoying it. I honestly, you're right. It's hard to write something for pros that know the content. I'm like, what can I teach them different that they don't already know, right? But so many things change all the time. So there's always space to talk about our insights and what we learn in our own spaces as marketers. So
Yes, there's so much to learn. And on that note, that's why we have another powerhouse, total social media powerhouse. Jessika Phillips is also with us, founder of Now Media Group. She works with over 100 companies globally and hosts one of the largest social media Midwest conferences titled Social Media Week Lima. And let me tell you about this conference. So I have had several good friends of mine speak and participate in this conference. And what I love, and why I selfishly wanted to make sure I got in front of Jessika was because she said, or actually several of my friends said, going to speak at conferences, and I speak a lot of conferences. I'm speaking for Forbes next week. Actually, no, I apologize. I'm speaking for CNBC next week. But oftentimes you go to conferences and you have these speaking engagements, but it's sort of you do your thing and you kind of leave. And it's kind of, you go in and you exit. But what my friends have told me is when you speak at Jessika's conference, it becomes such a wonderful experience. In fact, I've heard, Jessika, about this legend of the bobbleheads. Can you tell me about this? Because I don't have one of these, but I hear it's a pretty, it's like getting the Oscars. I've heard this is like the thing to get.
Yeah. So I live in a small town, Social Media Week Lima, Ohio is population 30,000. Okay. And to get here to speak for all these amazing powerhouses that are coming in to present at this event, it's not just taking a flight here, but the closest airport to my hometown is 2 hours away.
Wow.
So it's a commitment, right? And it's not like we're, have all these big funds to pay their speaking fees where we're going to get there one day. But with that, they're coming, they're showing up, they're providing all this value, they're doing it, they're engaging with the audience, and there's something super special built in this community of Social Media Week Lima. So I'm like, I don't want to just give like a speaker Amazon gift card, right? Or something like the relationship marketing, it's all about personalization. So I was racking my brain, what can I personalize that's specific to them? And so the bobbleheads were created, and never could I have imagined how awesome that it was. We did some characters and things like that as well, but the bobbleheads have definitely been the staple, I think, that the speakers enjoy for the event.
I know they did. Miri, do you hear this? We got to get ourselves some personalized bobbleheads, Miri.
How can I get one? I need one in my life.
We need to talk to Ronnie at Adobe about this. This just sounds like the coolest thing ever. We talk about relationship marketing. We're talking about building our brands and building our businesses. And both of you know that there's a lot of companies, executives out there who are suffering and wondering, I don't even know how I can get through this pandemic. I've got this great company. I love my employees. I love my customers or clients. What do I invest my energy on right now? And I think for many businesses, that is on how I can pivot. Right? We heard Disney just recently say that they're going from a truly very diverse entertainment company that has hotels and cruises, amazing amusement parks, and they're really pivoting and going all in on streaming and digital digital entertainment. Mm-hmm. So I think that many companies are feeling the same way, but on a much smaller scale. And I know Disney was one of the examples, Miri, in your book. So, Jessika, I would love for you to to tee us up on this, because this is something I'm so passionate about, and I love what you do with the bobbleheads. And sort of when I think about relationship marketing, I think of that as sort of the gold standard, especially here in the financial industry. I love to show my clients love, right? But how can other business, how important is this in 2020? And where do you see this sort of leading to in the future if you can be successful in it?
Yeah, so great question. And I love that you're all about the stats and you're sharing about Amazon Prime Day. Like, even to put it into perspective of the pandemic, the first 8 weeks that we were in the pandemic, we as a collective did more online shopping than the last 10 years before it. So it's only going to continue to increase. So as brands start thinking about pivoting, really the brands that are pivoting and trying to understand how can I reach my customer to get that sale, whether it's a product that you're selling, a service, or even, consulting, whatever it looks like for you, it's really looking at how can I build a better relationship so our customer wants to choose us? Because as you mentioned, how many thousands of small businesses that are out there, and it doesn't matter what niche of a business that you are, people have more options than ever before, and they're choosing to work with one company over another, not based upon what they do, but how they do it. So as brands are thinking about how can I pivot, and they're looking at now many team members are going remote, right? So if they didn't have their culture in place and that connection with their team to where their team's going to continue showing up with the same passion they did or the same, work that they did when they were inside that office space, things are going to start dropping. If their customers can't now have the convenience of doing business with them online because their store is closed, those things are going to drop. So you have to look at how can we make this connection with our customer that's meaningful, that's focused on not what we do, but how we do it in a way that's treating our current people that are working with us, or starting from the inside out with who we are at our core, what we believe, our team members, our customers, our community, and showing up in a way that's going to leave them with this great experience where they're going to want to continue referring us on and being loyal to our brand, even though they have more options than ever before online to start in their buying process, which that's what 90% of people do, is they start their buying process online. So if we're not showing up there to offer speed, ease of use, and, this overall experience, they're not going to choose our brand. They're going to, unfortunately, choose someone else, and our brands are going to suffer for that.
It's interesting that, Jessika, that you say this, because I completely agree with you. I think how we're making our clients and customers feel right now, that they're feeling listened to, they're feeling heard, they're feeling valued, is going to translate to long-term loyalty, because we're going through obviously a very challenging time altogether across the board. I think that sort of takes us to the value and importance of empathy. Certainly, given what we've been seeing on the political front, right, which just seems to be dominating the news, I think everybody's a little tired. We've even heard, like this morning, there was news about, people being fatigued of even watching sort of digital programming. And so people just need something else. Miri, let's talk about that a little bit. How can brands be more empathetic? What can they do today to maybe get that one more customer, one more client that they so need?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting, when COVID hit, I had brands, I consult with brands big and small, and it was really interesting to see all of the brands that I consult with were asking the same question: how do I pivot? And my answer back to all of them was, I don't know. Your customer is telling you, you got to listen. And so it's really this idea that empathy, it starts with listening. It starts with creating the space to understand our customer journey, where they are and how they're feeling through this journey. We're all experiencing this global pandemic in many different ways and forms. We've all been impacted at different levels. And then you add to that everything else, the social injustice, the unrest, the political climate. All of it is really hitting us at many levels. And so if we're feeling it, our customers are feeling it. And the last thing we need is somebody to tell us what to buy. And so it's really about listening to that environment, to that climate that we're stepping into, to offer the care, to demonstrate care beyond the sale. And the sale's going to happen. Our customers are going to need things anyway, but it's really showing up in a way that says, I value you in this moment. I hear you. I want to understand you. That's empathy. We drop from 3 levels of empathy. It's the cognitive empathy. We're all human. The emotional empathy. I'm also human. So a brand needs to truly humanize itself today. Humanizing the brand and marketing, a couple of years ago, was talking human, was getting away from the corporate jargon. Today, humanizing the brand, it means I'm going to make myself human. I'm going to let myself feel. I'm going to talk about our own challenges as a brand through COVID-19. And we're going to talk about that vulnerability. And then compassionate empathy, being compassionate to ourselves, talking about the leadership behind the brand, the challenges that the leadership may be experiencing. We're humans talking to humans. It's no longer brands to customer. We know that already. But how does that really practically show up in an empathetic way? It's through talking about it and listening.
Talking about and listening, and you create that feeling. I see Jessika nodding her head.
Amening over here. I wanted to snap, but I didn't want to like interrupt her because I'm like, yes.
She's like, you guys are literally talking the same lingo here.
Oh, yes. It's so good. Like she's so spot on with, it's not about the buying, it's about the belonging. So when brands, I think that's the shift, right? When you think about marketing, it's not about getting people to buy from you. It's like your marketing needs to be focused. And I hate even calling it marketing, but it's like just being, right? But it needs to be focused on getting the sense of belonging. Like, we are with you. We're here with you. We resonate with you. And here's who we are. Like, you have to show up as who you truly are. Like, I don't remember who said the quote, but it's like not reinventing ice cream, but creating your own flavor. And I love that because it's like, that's what we have to be. We can't just be transparent with like, or, vanilla, if you will, with what we believe. It's showing up in a way, like you said, not to just talk and use emojis, but truly empathize with your customer. I can't wait to read your book because you were so spot on with all you were saying there. And that's what it is. And you said it right. Like, there's not a tool or something that you can just plug in and make it work. It's your, the technique and how you're showing up to truly care and outcare the competition. And that's what's going to grow your business because they're going to be the advocates for you.
They'll be the advocates for you. I love that. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm going to read a line because this really resonates with me. Happiness, empowerment, inspiration, embarrassment, sadness, loss. These are feelings we can all relate to as humans. And if a brand story can strategically drive these themes across its business functions, it will succeed in connecting and staying connected with its audience. And don't forget, I've said this several times, and I'm a really big believer in this, as business owners, or even just, someone who even if you're an executive at a company, the responsibility for people to know who you are, to be able to do business with you, to be able to find you, that responsibility lies in you, right? Yeah. And so doing the marketing and doing the social media is one thing, but to do it in a way that these two powerhouses are sharing, I think is to that X level of saying, it's just not about me sharing and posting and spewing something out. I see so often, Jessika, I even see so many people just like, they just put like certain lines, but there's not that heart to it. And I know, Miri, you've talked about this too. Like, when we take a look at people posting, a lot of times it's really easy to copy paste, right? We see people direct messaging us that way. But how does someone who's, maybe they say, I'm not programmed that way to be able to be empathetic. That's just not my style. Miri, if you could lead that, and Jessika, I'd love for you to also give your insight that. Miri, what do you think?
I'm subject number one. I'm really not programmed as an empath at all. I took a test actually, and I came out 30 out of 35 attributes. I'm number 33 in empathy, being my lowest. So no, not an empath at all. Yeah, it's a real thing. So I was surprised.
like 100% empathy, but okay.
And so it's been a real journey to understand. Number one, it is an acquired skill set. It's something we can all practice and be. In fact, in early this year, January 2020, LinkedIn came out with a report saying that companies, brands, and employees, so both brands and employees, look for the same number one attribute, being empathy, in both places. So an employee wants to work for a company that is empathetic, and a brand wants to hire people that are empathetic. This is the number one attribute being held as a top one for hiring people and actually staying at a company. So that's really speaking about what is important today, as in a thought leadership perspective, in a marketing perspective, in a communication perspective. We will not respect people that don't show up empathetic. They can have the best words, the right words, and if it doesn't land with empathy, and we perceive that, we know that at the heart level, we won't tune in. And especially for our younger generations, we have Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. They sniff out the fake quickly, right? They know when people are being authentic or not. Empathy shows up authentic because we allow ourselves to be human, not polished. We show up the way we are. Brands can start talking about the mishaps and the challenges they're experiencing. They don't have to be polished. And I think COVID-19, if it did anything, was kind of disintegrate this idea that we need to show up a certain way all the time, that we can absolutely show up modern in the way that life happens, and we don't get to, it's not a linear path, and we're all being affected globally by this pandemic. And so empathy shows up not as an attribute that we not nice to have, it's now a must have at every level.
I love that. So I love how you're using empathy and being authentic in the same sentence, because sometimes when we think about empathy, we might think of like, maybe an elderly, like our grandparents, right? We want to be empathetic to the fact that they're not seeing their grandchildren right now. And that's, but then you're using empathetic and authentic in the same way. So it's sort of being real. And I love this, because I've noticed even in our own practice, like this live streaming show was really something that came from the heart. I was flying to New York City. We were filming at NASDAQ Studios in Times Square. And all of a sudden the pandemic hit. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to start doing live streaming every day. And the reason is because I felt like there are a lot of people that didn't understand finances, didn't know what was going on, and I didn't want to disappear on them, mainly for my clients and also for the general public. So, Jessika, you talked about something that I really want to circle back to it. I love this point. You said it's not about buying, it's about belonging. Is this type of relationship marketing, empathy, is this profitable? Is this some businesses are all about numbers, right? Move, sell. Do you feel like, obviously, we just talked about Amazon, huge numbers. Is there a lot of empathy and authenticity there? And does it translate better to some industries versus others?
Oh, so great question. So first of all, since we're bringing it back to data, like Walker did a study called Customers 2020. And this was done like 6 years ago, and they've updated it since. They said the number one deciding factor if a person's going to choose one brand over another is based on experience. And experience is how you make someone feel. And it kind of goes back to that whole Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? That sense of belonging is the thing that we're craving and seeking out. And I was like amening again to everything that you both were saying, because it's so true. It starts from the inside out, the way that somebody's going to choose to work with you and how you're showing up. And when it goes back to thinking about, okay, maybe I have empathy, or maybe it's harder to show it. It truly is empathy through, being authentic, because you do have to define first who your brand is, that brand manifesto, and understand who you are at your core in order to get clear. Then now I just have to show up as I am and what I really truly am passionate about, and who I really want to support and show up for. Like the reason you're doing this show, who you're trying to help. You are crystal clear on it. And this does translate into dollars, because now with more and more conversations, and this is the dark social component, 86% of website traffic is coming, I should say, from dark social, which is the private niche communities where people are having a conversation that brands can't track unless they're using like a third-party tool or, UTMs. But even then, it's not even perfect, because the conversations are starting with our core community of the sense of belonging, who we feel we belong with, and having conversations about brands. And that's leading to this online sales process. So it's kind of shifted. Like I said, the sales funnel is like blown at this point. Now it's not even about, getting leads and marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, and customers, because the customers are the ones that are encouraging the conversations to happen. So it's like this momentum flywheel effect, where it's starting from the inside out with the people who believe with us, our customers turning into our biggest advocates, our team members turning into our evangelists, our community members turning into, collaborators with us. And all while this is how we're growing outward. And the only way to do this is to truly get clear with how you then can show up in a real way. So if somebody can't, if there's a rule that you put in place that it makes logical sense for a team member to make an adjustment because it's just not in the best interest of the customer, we as a company have to enable our team members to have that power to make those decisions, and for us personally, like I've worked with clients where I've seen everything from 336% increase in their ROI over a year's time. It's a long end game, to numbers even bigger than that by focusing first on the inside out and growing this momentum of focusing on belonging over buying, and growing those momentum, because it's just who we are. Like Mark Zuckerberg said, the future of social is private in 2019. And we're already seeing this transpire now to the website traffic, buying decisions, referrals, and, people choosing experience over anything else.
People choosing experience over everything else, which that's really powerful, Jessica. And I commend you for sharing that, because we even saw, like, that's what I was really curious about, what it meant by dark social. From what I understand, these are like smaller conversations that brands can't track, right? That are happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Let's just politics aside, let's just talk strictly from a marketing standpoint. It's interesting because we're seeing more of those conversations right now, right? Because we have people, your neighbors, your friends, the politicians can't go out and do the typical campaigning. So they're relying on a lot of word of mouth. And we're seeing these micro discussions, right? All over social media, maybe even in a very quiet way of saying what you stand for, but really not saying what you stand for, right? But this is really interesting. The thing that I would love to get from you, Miri, is what is the most unethical practice brands can engage when storytelling? This is a really big one.
Yeah, it is. And I was just going to say, Jessica, I think you're my spirit animal. You were talking about of needs. I talk about that a whole lot when it comes to storytelling, because we fulfill a need. We actually talk to that need in our stories, and that's what actually resonates with our audiences. So we're on the same plane. I love that. The biggest unethical thing a brand can do is not set boundaries to their storytelling schemes. We have in marketing, we have organizations like the AMA, the ANA, that have created boundaries around and actually set values to what marketers can and can't do to protect the customer experience, to protect the buyer experience, to make sure that we don't go across and get beyond what we really should be doing at an ethical level. For example, children marketing to children at a certain age and that kind of thing. But we have not. We're entering storytelling from a very creative space, and there hasn't been actually someone talking about the ethics of storytelling. I wrote an entire chapter about this because of that, because I think that brands need to not only understand the power of storytelling, but also understand, because it's that powerful, how far do you want to get in manipulation? If it gets to manipulation of your audiences, you can manipulate with storytelling. So you really have to be checking yourself to say, how does my story go back to my brand mission consistently? And I'm not abusing the story schemes. I'm not abusing the emotional journey that I'm taking my customer on, especially when people are raw in emotions, like today. We are in a space where we are tired, like you said, we're exhausted. I'm drained emotionally many days. And so if a story hits me and I'm tuned into it emotionally, it does run the risk that I'm going to tune into the brand and attach to the brand, and they might not even care. They won't even return my gesture. So we need to make sure that as we create boundaries, if we're ready to tell a really good emotional story, that we prepare for what's next as we draw our audiences. How are we ready to take care of those customers? How are we ready to respond to that feedback, and really create parameters around that so we don't go far from our intended mission with our story?
That's brilliant, Miri. Totally brilliant. Yeah. So having a plan in place, because if you get all this love or feedback, what's your next, right? It's sort of like what Tony Hsieh did brilliantly with Zappos, with having that amazing customer service experience. You could pretty much call Zappos and ask for a lot of things, and in most cases they'll probably deliver for you, not only get you your shoes and the things in a short amount of time, but being there to deliver for their clients or customers, and figuring out where that boundary is brilliant. I think those of you who are running businesses right now, just as I am running multiple businesses, I feel like this is like you really literally think about the brain trust that you have between these two powerhouses. This is the information that will help you think of your business in a different light and the patterns that you need to build out. And what I love that both of them said was the importance of spending the time, putting together an idea of what empathy looks like, telling the story, creating that relationship, but also making sure that your customer client relationship or experience after the story is told, right? After the sale, that experience has a plan to make sure that that is also really good. And brilliant. All right. So you know what? I think it's time for a little speed round, because this is when it's just been brilliant. Yeah. We have some fun now.
Okay.
Let's do this. Miri, let's start with you. What is the biggest mistake brands are making today?
They are not pivoting in the modern workplace space. What do I mean by that? We now have shifted to a digital space. Modern workers are demanding things. They want to work where they want to work. They want to be where they want to be. Brands need to make sure that they're understanding the language and making spaces for not only their workers, people that are coming in as customers. They need to pivot completely to a digital space. We've been forced to do this in digital transformation through COVID, and now it's here, and so it's not going back. The biggest mistake is thinking you can go back. You won't be able to go back.
We're not going back, Miri. We're definitely not going back. We hear you loud and clear. Jessica, tell me, biggest mistake brands are making today.
Oh my God. That was it right there. First of all, like what she said, I ditto that. But another one that they're making is just focusing on only getting new business. And when you focus on only getting new business, you lose focus of building that relationship, which is going to grow the momentum that you have. So focusing on building that community, that's what will get you new business versus just looking for a new sale.
I love that. Focusing on building a relationship over getting a sale. Brilliant. All right, we're going to continue because we can't have the two of you here and not ask you questions. All right. Jessica, how did you meet your best friend or your best client?
Ooh, I'm sure both of them were through a conversation, but my best client actually was from a YouTube video, believe it or not, first. And then he just came into my office, and look, he was in my hometown, Lima, Ohio, which doesn't happen very often. Again, 30,000 people, very small. They're like, what's digital marketing most days? But came in there and we had a conversation, and it was just helping him actually set up some social channels and just showing him how he could do it himself. And then before I know it, he came back in the next week, and we've been together for 10 years going strong now.
Amazing. Amazing. 10 years is a great thing. Miri, let's talk about you. Best friend or best client. How'd you meet?
So my best friend, my husband, we met at church. I was forced to go because I was actually in love with somebody else, and my mom didn't let me be with that other person. So she brought me to church to make sure I met other people. So I ended up meeting him there, and I didn't like him at first at all. So 25 years later, here we are.
25 years later, you look like you're 25. But that's
I know, right? I'm like, when'd you get 10? 10 years old?
Yeah.
I was 17 when we met.
We love you, Miri. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Miri, who is the one person or company you'd love to do business with?
I have to say Microsoft. I'm sorry, I'm biased. I love doing business with Microsoft. I love Microsoft as a brand. I am a fan of what we do, and as a customer, what we do for people. I do this, when I talk to our students, because it's beyond the product. It's really the mission of empowering the world. And I think that speaks to everything we're talking about today, relationship. When we can attest to not only a good product, but social good, social justice, to really leaving an impact and an imprint in the world, attaching ourselves to a brand like that makes us feel powerful. We're contributing to that mission. So I love Microsoft, and I love what it does for us as a customer. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we're giving shout out to Microsoft for sure. All right, Jessica, drum roll to you.
Yeah, and don't be sorry, girl. That's what it's about. Like, that's awesome. You work for a company that you're passionate about. Like, that's amazing. Yeah. So there's many brands, but one that I love, and they're always the perfect example of relationship marketing, is Agora Pulse. Like, just how they show up to serve their community. They don't even have to do anything. Their community is like showing up on all the shows to wear like their swag and talk about them. And they just do an amazing job providing community, giving resources, and really just focusing on listening every time there's something mentioned that we need for the app to have to make us do our job better. Next time I log in, I'm like, wait, what? This is awesome. Like, what else can you do? Can you have somebody come to my house and help me clean it? What else can we put in here? But no, they do an amazing job with relationship marketing. So I love working with Agora Pulse and the team there.
I love it. Agora Pulse, giving you a shout out, and definitely a big shout out for our dear friend Mike Alton, who works there. So amazing. Let me tell you, I feel very grateful for those of you for joining us. And of course, these two ladies. And I got to tell you, don't worry. For those of you who are watching, I already asked before we start the show, and they sort of promised that they would come back again. I'm hoping they will, because this was so meaningful. And not only that, we got more chapters to discuss, Miri. For real.
Yes.
But thank you so much. I hope this is helpful. I hope this becomes valuable to you and your business as you're thinking about your brand and your practice and your business during this time, during the pandemic. And I want to do a sincere thank you, Jessika and Miri, for taking the time to helping us and share with the audience here of just a different mindset, getting us inspired. I don't know. I feel really excited. I feel like I want to do more.
Energized now.
Yeah. Yes, and a huge thank you to our good friends here. We have Natalie Gregg joining us. We have Brian Schumann. We have, I know Brian Schumann, everybody loves Brian Schumann. Yeah. We have Get It Hair joining us. We have Robin Stevens. We have so many of you. We see you, and we are excited that you are joining us. Thank you so much for participating in this really heartfelt project with goodness. I mean, this is the reason we do what we do, because we get a chance to spend time with leaders such as these wonderful two. I gotta say, by the way,
my cheek hurts now, like from smiling so much.
I know.
So good. It's a good thing. Like, you guys are amazing.
And I gotta share with you we're quite proud of this. And all three of us are working mommies here. And so, so that's kind of cool. Anyhow, thank you so much for all of you for tuning in. We will see you very soon. Join me again tomorrow. We're going to be back here at 1:30 and 4:30 for in the East Coast, 1:30 on Pacific. We are going to be answering your most pressing financial questions. We had a whole bunch of them coming this week, so I'm excited to share them with you. And if you didn't submit one yet, there's still enough time to do so. Go and send me a direct message or tweet it out or just put it in a post, and we will monitor that. You can always tag Ask Winnie. You can hashtag Ask Winnie, or you can just put it in a post. We will answer those questions for you tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow before the end of the week. We'll have some fun. Thank you so much, my friends, and take care.